The SM Media Podcast Network. Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of SM Media's Countdown to Cheltenham 2026. I'm Scott McPike. It's always a delight to be your host as always, and we are right in the middle of the jump season. I'm looking out and it's slightly frosty, so winter's definitely here. To join me as always to look back on what's been a fascinating week and some good performances. It's a pleasure as always to be joined by from the Scottish Daily Mail, Callum McCluckin.
Hi there, yeah, it's kind of the chill's kind of biting in now. See, Hexham's kind of cold off as well, but yeah, cold's not reaching up here. We're still basking in the warm glow of reaching
Yes.
the World Cup for the first time in since 1998. Generational stuff. So yeah, unbelievable last night. It's quite incredible for Scotland, and it's a really for such a football fanatical nation. You know, it is really good, really good news.
I mean, I've been through the ringer before. Where people, obviously, the club I support, I think they've had us through the ringer a few times in kind of those type of occasions. I've never experienced anything like that. Like,
Oh well, as an Ayr
really,
United fan and a Scotland fan, you know, I don't know what happiness means, so it's still an unusual feeling that's sinking in. No, it's incredible, you know. I mean, all the stories as well. Andy Robertson speaking afterwards.
yeah,
Craig Gordon, years and years there. Kieran Tierney's had a nightmare of injuries in the last 4 or 5 years, and he scores a winner. The surreal circumstances that it happens as well. You know, the three of the 4 goals were unbelievable. You know, and Lawrence Shankland scoring always a soft spot because he had a spell at Ayr United. So
yeah,
I mean, it just doesn't happen, particularly in the sports journalism game where you kind of you go in and you've got to turn this around in an hour. You're kind of steeled and prepared for the worst because you know you can't really kind of sink in immediately because you still get to kind of we've got to churn this out and then within 50-55 minutes to get it out and make sense of it all. So, but yeah, the way it now goes viral and stuff like that. It was 10 times better than when we managed to do it for the Euros eventually. But there's a whole generation of people that have never seen that or experienced it in their lives. So you saw it with the players as well, and the way and the staff at the end, and they're a really tight knit, likable bunch of players. So yeah, it kind of paled into significance. So but I had to indulge in some football chat there because I think
yeah.
as a nation we deserved it a little bit there.
Yeah, and it's obviously summer. The summer is already looking extremely promising. Just before we kind of start getting into the race, and obviously as well, it's safer gambling week. So we do obviously have to mention this week as well. If you are experiencing issues with gambling, there are helplines out there, Callum. We obviously talk about racing a lot. We're trying to find winners. We're trying to make a profit, but we also have to talk about the negative side of gambling as well, and talk about how it's not a way to make money, and if it's only gamble what you afford to lose, I think is a prolific statement.
Yeah, you just need to be aware of it really. Track things properly. Don't bet what you can't afford. Simple as that. And always keeping a track of things helps you keep on top of things and things like that. There's a lot of kind of GameStop things in lines, and you can now self-restrict yourself quite often now and online as well. So there's a lot of options to help. There's a lot of options to monitor what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. But as I say, though, obviously we all have the numbers and the kind of helplines on the description as well. If you are experiencing any kind of gambling issues that you want to speak about and feel you can. We recorded last Wednesday. I think we finished about 10 o'clock, I think, and I was just getting in my car to head to work, and I got a text from you about 10:15. State man out for the season, and I thought that's very typical. It's changed the champion hurdle picture. Before we kind of get into that though, with State Man, I think one of them. I think we'll look back with State Man. Hopefully, he comes back and is near his best. But I think we'll look back at State Man as this winning machine, who I don't think it's enough credit. Will get enough credit.
No, I don't think he ever will. He was kind of in the shadow of Scottish and Health early on. Willie Mullins probably felt like he underperformed that year. Went second to him in 1-1 that looked pretty poor in Irish Point. And then he was going to win last year, wasn't he? But barring the kind of fault of the last. And it's strange because, you know, you see a lot of these kind of Cheltenham previews. He even said that the first week that I thought he was outstanding bet in the all established races. You know, he's regularly sound. He's very consistent. Apart from that, you know, one outing last season, which was his kind of first run, and it's quite forgivable when Brighter Days Ahead just blitz him from the front. Really, it was a bit of an anomaly. Paul Tenney and Billy Mullins have always had a lot of faith in the horse. And he's been very reliable, very sound all his career, and 7-1 when he clearly set the standard with Constitution Hill was on the way and looked one of the better bets. So I think for such a tough horse, you've got to remember how hard it is to get there, even horses like that. So yeah, it's a big blow and it shakes up the division in more ways than one. Willie Mullins will have to do some rejigging around a little bit, and it brings kind of others that you maybe dismissed that couldn't get to his kind of 160, 165 rating into the equation.
Well, it certainly opened the market up slightly because we're now 72 Lossiemouth in the new line. Constitution Hill, who had a gallop yesterday and seems to be in working order, is 5-1. We'll talk about the Morgiana later in the show, but Anzadam is 6-1 now, and Anzadam looks to be, from what we're kind of gathering based on the kind of Morgiana entries, Anzadam looks to be the kind of, not super sub, but certainly the one that you're imagining will try and kind of fill that void. Because I don't think it's any more likely that Lossiemouth goes to the champion hurdle after this.
No, I think trip wise, I think maybe at Kempton they kind of figured out that maybe 2.5s are optimum rather than two. She could probably last year she would have been able to take it the way the champion hurdle developed. If you put her in it, it would be no fuss. She would have won it. And you know, two out, she fell into challenging state man. So if the Irish champion hurdle developed a little bit differently, then maybe a different result. And I think they'll probably have to wait then to see what she does. The market's still saying that she's going Hatton's Grace, which points to be 2.5 miles, and she'll probably stay there. And then Kempton Christmas might be kind of a fact-finding mission where if Constitution Hill doesn't really recover, she might be up against another 2.5 mile in the new line. So it's just moving the pieces a little bit. Amsterdam might have gone to the fighting fifth, will be rerouted to the Morgiana. Looks to be their number one, looks to be their kind of unbeaten sexy horse. But there's likes of Aranci and Kyrgyz that are possibles as well, that have achieved a little bit more. Aranci's performance in the Punchestown Festival, okay, it was end of season form and it may have fell apart a bit. It was pretty impressive for. He's a bit older, but he's still an exposed and likely race when right. And he put it all together. He put it all together pretty impressively. So he's no sleeper. I mean, in the Punchestown market, you know, Willie Murray's still there, but he's got a setback for the Morgiana, so he'll actually miss it. He was left in because of a clerical error. So I think it's probably between Amsterdam and Aranci. Now, Aranci's definitely not out of that picture, and out of the champion hurdle market. You know, Aranci might be the kind of value play there at the current prices. But the thing is, who would ride him if the new line goes to plan? Because I mean, I suppose Harry Skelton will keep that ride anyway. Mark Walsh should be in Aranci anyway, so the weight pans out. So it's just move the things, and when you take and it's interesting because if you go through all the kind of main markets, if you take out one player, a significant player in State Man, then you can see a lot of the kind of weapons are still in one camp, and it does a lot of rejigging. And it only takes kind of one piece missing from the jigsaw that the whole thing just moves. So while it looked kind of pretty set in stone, there's 3 or 4 champion hurdle contenders here. You take the big consistent one out at the top of the market, you know, all of a sudden it's really, really up for grabs again.
Well, let's get into Cheltenham's November meeting. Obviously, with 3 days of action at Cheltenham, we're going to talk about the kind of big races from that weekend. We'll start with a slower chase on Friday. We thought, obviously, there was a bit of a kind of weird race. Loads of sud. Took John Bon on. John Bon, I want to start with Load of Sud, actually, because I think, as well, it was a horse that we thought might not be able to go to the kind of next level. I'm not any more convinced that he's a top-tier champion chaser. But I think he's went up slightly. I think he's certainly better than what we gave him credit for.
Yeah, I mean, he was a kind of high-end handicapper last. 2 years ago over hurdles, and he's improved for a fence. But I think Dan Skelton understands that he's best on soft ground, very fresh. I mean, he kind of took one race too many, I think, before the Arkle and left his race there. And again, the same thing kind of happened at Aintree, where he was just a bit below par. So jumping key soft ground, and the Harry Skelton rode him really, really well. I mean, they had one crack at John Bond. They pressed the initiative when they got to Matata, and John Bond couldn't really handle it, and that was it. And it was kind of further evidence of just Cheltenham and John Bond just being he's slightly off his best. He's a
It
little
was
bit vulnerable
his
around there.
jumping as well. He's even when he wasn't winning at Cheltenham though, his jumping was usually spot on. I thought that was the first time where I thought your
Yeah.
jumping just isn't there.
No, I mean it was terrible in the champion chase and in Sandown. You kind of messed about at the start of it. It's always going to come back round to 2 mile chases at Grade 1, Grade 2 level championship pace. If you're not in a rhythm, you're beat.
Yeah.
Simple as that. It's not management in the Arkle. It's not John Bond. You see it quite regularly. You can't recover your rhythm, and one mistake can knock stuffing out you. And that's what kind of happened with him. You know, he was then in the back foot, and he was never really recovering. And Nico de Boinville kind of took, well, there'll be other days. And the Sandown, he seems to be a better horse around there. Generally speaking, I think his big Aintree effort after Cheltenham, which was a big effort to get back up for second that day, meant that he was vulnerable to Elliot Tomp in the celebration chase last year. So I think the ground wasn't an excuse. I think Nick Henderson was kind of alluding to that a little bit of heavy ground fitness wise. It was a bit more than that. And if he gets beaten at Tingle Creek, then it's pretty hard to see him staying over 2 miles for the foreseeable because he's just getting out pace and it's just becoming a little bit too much for him. I mean, again, when they were kind of really put kind of injected pace and somebody took the race with a scruff of the neck, that's when he really put in the back foot and didn't have any answers. The same thing happened in the Arkle, really. Champion chase, he was holding the back foot from the start. If he doesn't dictate a race on his own terms, then he's in trouble, It happened there with the first 3 or 4 fences was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely fine. Everything was fine. My Matata's on the inside, that's
When
fine.
it gets put under pressure,
I'm
yeah.
outside, but when Harry Skelton made that move, say, I'm going to go right in your girth and apply pressure, it went to pot quite quickly, and it's a concern around there. And if Majwa is the real deal, and fact if Files there is a Ryanair and GP McManus is getting all the way, I think, the Gold Cup, he might turn around and say, John Moore, and say, like, just wait and go to Aintree because it's
Yeah.
just not happening for you around Cheltenham.
Yeah. In terms of the kind of Tingle Creek picture, obviously, Ali the Tops is 4-7. You've got a load of Sud at 11-4 and John Bond 7-2. John Bond, you'd expect him to be better at Sandown, but just the jumping really worried me. Like, it was the first time I looked at him and thought, you're usually the reliable jumper in a field and you weren't there. And now I'm like, man, I'm not sure you improved that much for Sandown. I don't think Ellie de Tom's a terrible price at 47. I wouldn't back it, but to me, I think he's definitely the one to beat in this.
Yeah, and the fact that he's put in so short so quickly means that they think that his performance, Clone Mill Oil, in Irish form is just a bit better, and he's got more to offer. And John Bond's been around. He's been around for a long, long time. He's not going to improve, is he?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and he was just a bit vulnerable there. And I think if you think that Lodi Saw's best fresh, then you wouldn't really be fancying him for Tingle Creek really afterwards, to be honest. So the way his novice season went suggested that. There must be a temptation for Dan Skelton to put him away for the championships. I think he's Nubi Negra in reverse, really.
Could be.
Nubi Negra was really fresh and very good on good ground. I think he's opposite in terms of ground, but I think he's very, very similar natured. I think they figured it out, but if you're going for trainers title and you're pot hunting with these horses, then you only need to turn up and you only need to be like 85-90% good enough to be maybe guaranteed second. It's a lot of money to turn down for races that are only going to probably attract 5 or 6 runners at the best, and you're going to be second or third, even with a slightly under par performance. So I actually think it's interesting, Champion Chase, if you knew they were going to put him away.
Mm-hmm.
12-14 to 1 each way is an angle, because I think he would probably run his race, and maybe Negi went frightfully close that year that they did that. I think he's a similar kind of ilk, and I think he's capable, but I don't think they'll do that. I think they will run to even if they'll just give them a break after Tingle Creek, that might be enough of a time gap. But it can be a swamp there, and you could get a hard race there anyway. Really, and then you've got your better caliber of Irish horses coming in afterwards. Really, that could finish him off. So yeah, it was just a good attacking ride from Skelton's, and it was kind of in keeping with what they've done in recent weeks. They've pot hunted well, tactically execute things well. They know that they've got their horses really fit, and they don't miss when it's like that. And the money was down from the morning. They did come. We was backed into 94 at one point over the morning, and as you alluded to in the morning before as well, John Bon had all these boosts left, right, and centre, and that's usually a telltale sign of things, really.
Well, let's go to the Albert Ballot Novices Hurdle. I think we've definitely seen a good horse here. There was obviously Paul Nicholls is I think at times Paul Nicholls can't help himself at times with these kind of comments. And he basically no drama this end was very, very good. We actually both gave him a mention last week on the show, and he said, "I've waited for a long time to have a really classy one since Denman." And I think with a bit of luck, he could be one of them. He was very, very good, Callum. It's very early though to be saying that.
Yeah, well, he says it quite regularly, to be honest. And Nicky Henderson says stuff quite regularly about Costigan Hill that just gets the customary eye roll, really, doesn't it? Look, I think it was mainly out of emotion, really, because I
Yeah,
think he's had a lot of knocks recently. He's seen horses kind of leave his yard. He's seen his prodigies. Dan Skelton is just overtaking him massively and ruling the roost and taking out and getting his owners and and it was an emotional one with losing Paul Barber and stuff like that. I mean, it does matter to him. And after Caliph de Belly's reversal and Quebec's reversal, you're thinking, well, the desperation to have a top-notch one still in your yard, and a proud yard with so many brilliant horses of the past, multiple champion trainer back in the day. I just think there's kind of an act of desperation. Just want one really good one to consistently go to war with, and he was it. He was the one that we mentioned last week that I hoped to win, that had the most potential to win, the horse that would probably go into greater, better things down the line. It's just a case of whether he needed it. That he put it away quite comfortably. The favourite went off a bit too fast and too fresh up front. Did
I
set a
wouldn't. I wouldn't be against
reasonable
him in the
stand.
future. Like I do. Maybe I was a bit keen at the start, but I don't think necessarily that was like the first, even the second and third. I thought both ran pretty well, but I think the
Yeah.
winner was just a different level, to be honest.
Yeah, the winner did kind of touch a class. He'll go shallow, and it's whether it's that age-old question of do you kind of skip Cheltenham and go to Aintree, or I think there might be a temptation to skip with him. I know he's a favourite for the turners and things like that. I just think I'd be desperate not to kind of bottom these horses and go there now. The
He's
stage
had,
of the career he's at,
yeah,
I
he's had
think the
too many bads.
battles, and he even came out and said that he's going to be lightly raced, and he's got next season in mind over a fence. He looks like that kind of type, and
Yeah.
he's mentioned the D word as well. And I don't think he was that far away from doing a similar thing with Hermes Allen.
hmm But you
And
mentioned like Hermes Allen, Brave Man's Game, Stage Star. They all
he still went on to win a
yeah,
King
Stage
John.
Star as well won a Ryanair, not a Ryanair, a Turners. Like they were better over a fence, and he did put them into the Ballymore at the time where they just get found out and went on to be better over fences. So whether it does kind of because I don't know necessarily what else goes for the Charlo at the moment. He looks to be the standout for that. Again, there's still probably a few we haven't seen yet, but what else kind of goes for the Charlo? Because he looks to be the one at the moment that you would immediately go, he's a Charlo winner.
Yeah, I mean, unless the 2 mile step up to 2.5, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't see any rush
No.
to kind of do that, or your steers kind of come back and trip a little bit. Yeah, I mean, he's clear. And sometimes the Irish kind of send over a marker for that as well. So yeah, I mean, I think they're just going to mind him for next season. Obviously, with Hermes Allen, we didn't really see the best season. I think his chasing season get curtailed quite quickly due to that happened on track, didn't it? So it's difficult, and when you're getting shortage of these horses, the the less kind of risk you can really take of it going wrong again. So and he kind of spent a bit in the sales, I think, the following weekend as well. So there is the appetite for him to get back to the top table. He's not far away anyway. He's still operating regularly at 20% level. It's just the quality of
Mhm.
horses, the kind of like Saturday horses, so called, just haven't there. But they've got one in him, and it'll be interesting to see the campaign because he's definitely the leading kind of 2.5 mile staying novice so far. But they're going to use him sparingly. They'll probably want some decent cut in the ground in the future as well. I mean, he did handle that ground quite well. They were a bit worried about it. His bumper form stacked up reasonably well. And yeah, just keep him sound, keep him rolling on, and see where he can take.
Right, we'll move into the Triumph Juvenile Hurdle on Saturday, where we saw Harry Derham, who's had a great start to the season, winning this with One Horse Man. There was a big gamble in him before the off went off 100 to 30. Beat Precious Man, who I actually probably took the most from the race. Hallelujah, you ran quite poor. The Cromwell horse didn't jump very well. What's the kind of one you take out of this?
Yeah, I took the second out of it as well. Precious Man. I mean, I thought untidy error at the last. I don't think it cost him the race. I think it was being held, but I just think the favourite, well, the one that the money came in, it ran it quite, had the running of it. They'd probably go to the finesse hurdle in January. They
Yeah.
might meet. They might both beat each other again. But Precious Man, he had that kind of penalty. He just kind of travelled the best into maybe the classes and just kind of found wanting for a run. Dan Skelton's novices have tended to need the run for sure. Definitely his novice hurdlers have. Um, and his juvenile ones as well now. I thought he ran quite well. Um, Secret Force looked to lose his confidence very early on. I wouldn't be giving up on him. I think it's probably another day. And the Gavin Cromwell yard, some of them are not been running too bad. I mean, there's a lot of second and thirds and a lot of outsiders and things. But his Cheltenham horse didn't run particularly well over the weekend, and the yard has found winners hard to come by recently. So I think they've left probably a lot of work there with him. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, Willie Mullins probably has 5 or 6 better, doesn't he?
Potentially, yeah. We'll go into the Arco trial that was won by July Flower. Be Aware. Obviously, July Flower was getting weight, so again, you might be kind of in another day. You might see Be Aware race reversing the form. I don't really know what to make of this because they're talking about July Flower just keeping her now fresh until Cheltenham. You've still got the option of the kind of Mare's Chase or the Arco. I wouldn't be necessarily against her maybe running a race in an Arco if it was
Well, it's just
short.
like what I kind of alluded to a couple of weeks ago. I mean, our price was about 33s or something, and I saw Henry de Bromhead was planning to go this way, and it's very put the kettle on like move, and she was pretty successful at the Cheltenham Festival at the end, and it's a very way of Henry de Bromhead training. It's just get them out early, see where they are, and then maybe go missing a little bit in the depths of winter, and then bring them back. I wouldn't be sleeping on her at all. I really wouldn't. I kind of backed out of her because I think she was getting short enough in the betting,
Mm-hmm.
and the Limerick race was over further in the thinking, how useful and how good that form was, and he had that niggling doubt. Well, she didn't really turn up
Yeah.
at the Cheltenham Festival last year. It was a pretty poor run, so you're kind of wondering if she handled the place properly. Um, but she had plenty of speed. Tactical speed was fine. Travelled into it wonderfully. Jumped really well and did everything right, and beat a skeleton horse where there was good money for him. They were reasonably confident backing him. Beat him well enough. Stuck on quite nicely. Um, Be Aware might be kind of more a handicap project, I
I
think, down
would.
the line
It could
again.
go Henry VIII, though. I was thinking that it might be him and Lolamba kind of head of the market for the Henry VIII.
Possibly, I don't think he's got any chance in that. I
Mm,
mean, I think you get a third run and get him for a mark, really, for marks. That would be the archetypal plan for that yard, I would think. And, he could possibly go, but he stuck to his task quite well. I think he's a bit of a weak finisher in the Coral Cup. I think the trip might have caught him out, and I think they maybe put him too far back, and they were overconfident with him, and he underperformed slightly. Um, I think he's fine again. They both kind of dropped back trip and good tactical speed. Burdick Road was okay. Probably not quite an actual, but can come on from it. And Stencil was far too free early
it
doors,
was
so
very keen.
it was a decent enough trial, but thing is, you've got two at the top of the market that might be head and shoulders above them.
Let's go to the Paddy Power Gold Cup. I've backed Panic Attack, I think, about 12 times in his career and didn't back him here. I get into the other Skelton horse, Hold Holy Smoke, who actually ran quite a good race, made a mistake at the second last. But Skelton's in these races, they just, at the moment, they're the team to follow.
They're the biggest force in British racing right now. Simple as that. While Nicky Henderson, Coronation Hill are going out, galloping away. He's galloping away with £1 million already. Nobody seems to be challenging him. And he's recruiting well, and he spent a lot of money well in the sales, and he's getting a lot of new owners in. And he could really be a monopoly here in the next 3 4 years. Seriously, by 2030, this could be like Willie Mullins' kind of one horse town stuff. You're only looking at 2 yards at the moment.
Yeah.
There's only 2 yards that are of interest. Looking down the line. It's the first yard you'd look at to look at any race of significance in Britain would be Dan Skellin.
Yeah.
By a long, long way. This is an excellent training performance. Because she usually needs a run, and it's just you can get anything fit for anything, and weight them, and it's a baby. It's actually maybe a bit an Irish way of operating, really getting them ready. It's like thinking outside the box. It's not this, well, we've got the better horse anyway, we'll just win what we want. They're not afraid to. Maybe some people don't like. They're not afraid to. We'll get this. We'll get this £10 lower, or we'll get this really fit for this, or we don't mind having the odd kind of suspect ride or kind of bad thing. Because that's how you make things work, and that's how you make things pay, and that's how you make things. How you make your whole yard make hay, really. And he knows that he's got, if he wants to beat Willie Mullins, you need to be absolutely, you need to steal as much of a big lead as possible. And he's doing it. And even the third ran well, in different circumstances. Well, who's a stayer? You think, yeah, I know that's on a good mark. It'll be going for something. But, if it's fit, fresh, and well, he runs them. And if you're going to run horses, you're going to pick up prize money. And, he does keep doing it. And, for the mare was very good. The interesting thing is, she might go up the handicap again quite quickly turned out, and she might be a mare's chase candidate
Yes,
by the
that's
end
what I
of the
was
year.
thinking, yeah.
She's definitely sorted her, and you follow obviously from the David Pipe yarn as well and things like that. She usually takes the odd run to kind of warm up to her task. Didn't look big
She's
enough.
certainly a better jumper than she was under.
She didn't look big enough for fences
Yeah.
and points. They obviously school them really well and strengthen them up really well. So, and you're attracting bigger owners and newer owners and more money into the yard because you're getting results. It's the same with Willie Mullins. You keep winning races, you want horses with him, man. And it's the same here, People just want winners.
It was a good week for Brian Drew, to be fair. We'll go on to talk about another horse, but he certainly
Certainly
got
was.
a few
It was, Vincenzo ran a cracker. I think Bad ran pretty well as well. He'll be better on a flatter track, at Ascot and things like that. Conyers Hill, El Redondo, the ground was too deep.
Yeah.
Coming Up Easy actually ran really well to be a bad mistake. And another one that I backed outside of S Perfecto breezed into it really well, but he just a lack of a run told up the hill, and there's definitely a race in him. So it was disappointing that Jaguar was taken out because it made it a lot easier. And there's no bona fide class act here, and for the race's prestige, it was a poor muddling.
It was, yeah, it was, but obviously the Skeltons get it done. We'll go to the two kind of big handicaps on Sunday. We had the odds checker handicap chase where Marble Sands, who was obviously another horse that is kind of been waiting for his day. I couldn't get over Protectorat and Tanganyika, how quick they went, and I actually think Protectorat's running a stormer with top weight in this to finish third.
Yeah, and they went a decent clip, didn't they? Tanganyika pressed. Protectorat, you're looking maybe could be an Ultima horse in the line. He's going to pop up somewhere, isn't he? Usually it's kind of like that Windsor kind of meeting and the Winter Million kind of thing.
Yeah.
They usually kind of target Tanganyika does get a race there. Just blew up. A lot of Venetia Williams horses blew up. Frere Bamboo did. In the Grand Sefton over the last just kind of stopped. That's how a lot of them, bar Jello, really are running. So that could leave that behind completely. just a kind of standard rate. I mean, Marvel Sands improves. Probably the last one I would have backed in that race if I had a bet in it, because I mean he did absolutely no form over 3 mile plus. So given their kind of connections, I'd imagine they head to kind of Newcastle after that for the rehearsal maybe, or the either later on.
Yeah, let's get into the Greatwood, where it's a good day for Joe Tizard actually, because he won the race before that with Triple Trade. Alexei winning the Greatwood, I thought this was a really good performance actually.
Yeah, again, a bit like the Paddy Power
Uh,
Cup. It's just
yeah,
it's not a good renewal.
no.
But I mean, it was one of the younger progressive horses that won it and showed that he can handle the ground. I think that was the kind of doubt of it. I mean, the Welsh Cheltenham Huddle form looked pretty good. It's definitely a race that's worth following, and he's won it very convincingly by 6 lengths. And again, there's probably could probably whack off £10 top limit off getting to a champion hurdle win number. He's the one that can improve and keep improving and maybe get into that conversation eventually down the line. Tizards, I mean, you've got these kind of valuable 2 mile handicaps anyway, so Betfair hurdles and things like that. I mean, that's what he's going to do. But the fact that he can handle that ground gives him a lot more options. Maybe did dry out a little bit the Sunday. It was a bit sticky, and it wasn't quite like a flying at mud, but it was still looked pretty hard work to me. Yeah, he did it quite nicely. Probably didn't have a great deal to beat, but he looked very progressive. And the way he kind of powered up the hill was pretty impressive. He's going to get a hefty whack for it and see what happens again. But yeah, 40-1 for the champion hurdle, something like that. Worth keeping an eye on. I mean, if it cuts up and he turned up, that might be a decent ticket, but a lot of water, a lot of water to go under the bridge there.
Yeah, when we saw last year, anything can happen in a champion hurdle. I want to just talk. We're going to do our three performances each in just a moment. But obviously, we had three exciting novice chase performances. We'll start with on Sunday. Final Demand got off the mark over fences. He's now 6-4. You can get 7-4 in places for the Brown Advisory. What do you think of this?
Yeah, it was magnificent, really, wasn't it? It was everything you kind of wanted to see in a novice chaser. When he was given an RPR that was £6 higher than Monkfish, his debut over fences. And you can see what I mean. He's just polished, foot perfect, didn't miss a beat. He's put a good field away. Wingman is a good horse on second that was fit, ran to his mark, and he just burrowed him as if he wasn't there.
Do you know what I got? No vibes I got with Wingman. Do you remember when Size and John used to always finish behind Doovan? Not
Mm.
saying that Wingman's going to win a Gold Cup or anything like that, but you always felt Wingman will just look at Final Demand's arse for years, and then he'll go and win like a massive pot somewhere, and you'll
To
just
me, it was
remember.
like it was like Jerry Colombe looking behind Galloping Deschamps.
Yeah, like that as well. Yeah,
I
like,
mean, it was top class, but I mean, everything he did was flawless. Okay, he's had the run of things and things, but I mean, it's just the ease at which they opened him up and he powered away and he was clever and very economical, very professional. You'd be hard pressed to find any fault with him. I think with Kopek the Borneo Lambo you could. With him, 3 miles, and you're 674, yeah, but I mean, he's going to scare a hell of a lot off.
so that's what I was going to ask you. He's 64 at the moment, right? And let's just assume it goes Faugheen, Flowgas, then Cheltenham. Is 64 going to look a monstrous price
If he gets there.
if
I
he
mean,
gets there?
it's one of those. If he gets there, he wins. The thing is, just staying chasers. You can get the odd hiccup along the way. I mean, Monkfish, blundered round
Mhm.
and still won. So I mean, look, it's just the law of the land. These prices, it's very prohibitive, but you can see why he's priced so defensively, because you don't see a horse like that getting beat, particularly novice company. You just don't see him getting beaten. And back in the day, you might get 341 before going into a Grade One like that. Now you can't, because you know that yard have all the firepower. Paul Townend is not going to get off him in a hurry. You know now that he's jumped the fence very well. He had high class hurdle form. He goes on any ground. The only quibble you'd probably have is that his poorest performance last season was at the Cheltenham Festival. And you'd go to Punchestown and say, well, it wasn't trip related, because Punchestown, you need more tactical speed. Even though it's over 3 miles, but you need more tactical speed to kind of put that away. Um, so I think that's maybe a slight doubt. That old course could run a turn quite a lot, and but he looks perfectly balanced enough and poised, and yeah, can you really roll in 64 4 months down the line?
It's
If he
7 to 1 to win the Gold Cup in 2027.
well, that's a bit silly now. I think doing that kind of double and stuff like that. But the owner's already said that he's better than Brave Man's Game. So like, he was a high class horse at one of King George, the best he's had. He seems to keep himself reasonably sound. I mean, and that was a good beginner's chase there as
Yeah.
well.
I
I
think there
think the
was a lot of them
second,
playing for Marks, I think was the word.
I don't think the second was. I think
No,
the
no.
second really was genuinely trying, and the owner of that gave the second wingman a very positive mention coming into it as well. And for him to just swap a wheel like that was impressive. Um, he does look the next kind of. He does look like the next coming. He's got to go. I mean, for instance, it's night and day difference between him and Ballyburn.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Yeah.
and he still goes off odds on because on real reputation, and he's going to ward off a lot. I mean, you could be sitting there like looking. He's 1 to 4, a 4 or 5 runner race.
I'm
Come
sitting with
March.
my 6 to 1 slap in my pocket.
Yeah, well, that's doom now, isn't it? But again, and you're kind of looking through the field now, and with Derry Ass and Paddy came out wasn't
Yeah.
impressive at Ayr over the week, and you're looking at horses to take him on that they're going elsewhere.
I mean, this
You
could have
can
4 or 5
back
runners.
2.5, yeah, easily at least, and so you can see everything's just aligning for him, and you're kind of looking at reasons to kind of poke holes in him. And the only one you can think of is get beat at Cheltenham Festival last year.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a couple. Now is our, I would say probably was maybe Mark Cutton. I thought Butch Cassidy was one to take from that actually for long term projects. National Hunt Chase, maybe we'll see. It could be if he could get in. But we saw obviously two staying novice chase performances on Monday. We start with Lalamba, who won Exeter, obviously beating Fingal Bridge. I actually thought ran quite well as well. Would you make a Lalamba?
Yeah, I always like this horse, and I think we did it reasonably well. These good market strength on the day. Exeter, I mean, the thing is, they kind of took all the fences at the back straight, didn't we? But he was,
That sun, it was actually terrible for the viewer watching it.
yeah, and I think that's why his jumping was a little bit safe. But the big doubt with him is natural pace, isn't it?
Mhm.
Is he going to be quick enough? Stairs could win Arkles. The last season was a classic example of that. And if it pans out like that again, he'll have a big chance. But the good yardsticks, he was triply flyer. He did some good stuff on all his hurdles. He went on, gave him a lead. And Fingal Bridges get some decent form as well in the book. Silver as well, high class. I mean, it's like kind of mid 140s horses, all three of them. Um, and he put them away at the end, really without being extended. Just one kind of squeeze, and he was comfortably away. But he is definitely an actual chaser. He's maybe a bit safe at them, but they would definitely have left a lot on him. Didn't really come out of second gear, and he'd been a lot sharpened up. And Henry VIII seems to be possible for him, and would probably learn more. And I think Sandown probably a more suitable track as well. He'll learn more in the jumping department as well. He got in tight into a few of them. Maybe wasn't as quick in the air as this other chat that we're going to mention next time. But the kind of the pathways have been kind of started there for both them either side, and I think he did perfectly fine for me.
Was Kopech the board more impressive?
Visually, yeah, I mean he's a bit more explosive, isn't he? And he's probably more an actual 2 mile attacking Arkle horse. He's another one that's beat a very good field, phenomenal engine, and again just a wee kind of inch of rain and a ways off like a rocket. Paul Townend was at pains to kind of hold him back a little bit, but once he kind of jumped on, took the lead, dictated, he was away and gone, and his jumping technique was very, very good. I think that was the kind of doubt, where is he going to clout them, is he going to be as clumsy? But he did definitely give him a lot more respect, and put away some decent horses when they tried to kind of go to him lovely hurling, kind of tried to get his gauntlet 2 out, and he just kind of sauntered away from him really quickly. Um, um, he is brave at them and attack them, and he's a bit of a roller coaster ride. Like Willie Mullins was alluding to, it was very fresh in the paddock. He was kind of bucking, and so did Lalamba as well. To be fair, and both of them were kind of very keen to go on with it. But I think Lalamba kind of settled and conserved the energy a little bit better. Well, he doesn't, but his engine's far more kind of explosive and quicker that he can maybe get away with it. So they're two very different types that have got different strong suits to their jumping game, and it'll be a fascinating clash for that reason if they hopefully get there. And there'll still be some other horses that will definitely be in the equation. You can just already kind of see them, like when El Fabiolo and John Bon and Dysart Dynamo went to the second last. You can see them all kind of hurtling down there and approaching that fence, which is notorious in the Arkle of making and breaking the race. You can kind of see that situation develop in your head. And I think in the jumping department, I think the way Kopek, the board's bravery, you can see him either making 2 lengths or losing it there, to be honest. I think it's that kind of hear him, scare him race. So yeah, but the good thing for Kopek, the board, is, and I think it would have really helped Marsborough last season, is they've got that 2 mile race back.
Yes.
So you can just go there and it maps out itself and go to the Irish Arkle and, go the kind of try and tested footpad route, really, and you know what you're doing there. And that's the kind of same thing with Final Demand. He's going to be notably shorter now because you don't have that mid-tier grade 1. So, I mean, you're not kind of wondering what races are going to go. He's going to go the Arkle. He's going to go Brown Advisory, and that's it. As for Lalamba, and there were murmurs at grade 4 going 5 that he might skip the Arkle. That's not really Nicky Henderson's mantra. In fairness to him, they do go for Cheltenham, and I don't see that changing unless he's very, very much so pigeonholed before then. 2.5 mile, he's just going to go. He's going to do like the likes of what Shishkin does and Altior does and things like that, and go for these races, stay at 2 mile until hopefully the kind of top British horse meets the top Irish horse at Cheltenham, and we see who's best, and we get the clash that we want. But yeah, I mean, I think they're both very, very promising in contrasting ways.
Let's go into our kind of 3 performances each. So we're going to just go into that before we go and preview, which is another really exciting weekend. My first one, I mind if I go first here? I think we might have the same one. I don't necessarily think this was performance of the season. I think it was ride of the season so far by Sean Bone on Wade Out.
Yeah, yeah, and the nominated National Chase for him straight away. Yeah, that was one of my rare winners over the weekend. Didn't even bet on the Sunday, really, to be honest. And Sean Bone was the reason why, really.
Yeah.
I think they were all kind of mishmashed. They all kind of had tentative claims, but particularly over 3 miles plus. You want him in your corner because you see it all the time. How many holes he digs out at likes of Perth when you're there and things like that. He just has that inner strength and ability and timing as well to dig deep into horses and get them finding for you. In the age where the whip's a little bit less useful in that regard, you need a lot more strength, the saddle, and you can see why he gets the Tony McCoy comparisons. And yeah, he'll need to jump a lot better and fluently, but interesting they turn it like cheap pieces, sharpen him up a little bit, something like that, what they do. But I mean, at best, he could be very like this year's Resplendent Grey for Lily Murphy Yard. At best, I think it's a bit ambitious that he can do that if he can turn it inside out, because I don't think his jumping's at that level yet. But it's a possible if he learns quick and be a bit sharper. But it was good enough. It was as you say, it was all about the ride, really.
Yeah. Who's your kind of big performance of the weekend?
I thought Diva Luna was outstanding.
Yes.
Ben Paulin thinks the world over. Didn't quite see it the best at the tail end of last season. Maybe could overdid it a little bit. She jump fences beautifully and put Joyce to the sword really, really stylishly. I think they might have been a bit kind of undercooked and steers in behind, but she pinged away, winged away wonderfully. And another kind of fascinating angle into this Mare's Chase, where you've got Dino Blue in there, defending champion, setting a solid standard only by night. This horse coming into the equation, Panic Attack possibly coming into the equation, Spindleberry as well. And you're finally maybe getting a semblance of strength to this males program, particularly them going chasing, and finding these brighter days ahead could come into that equation. You could get 6 or 7, you know, really decent looking types in here at the moment, and they're all kind of stating their claims differently. And I thought, as a novice, it was very impressive. He's always maintained that he'd be better up 2.5, but she does have natural speed. She's got a good cruising speed, and ran really well in the Mares Novices hurdle last year when I think she just got outpaced at a crucial point, didn't quite rally as well as the winner, and the second was always travelling a little bit better than her, but she was comfortably the best of the British, and yet you can see why connections see that an apple of her eye, because there is a lot of ability there.
Yeah, absolutely. The second one I'm going to go for was at Navan on Sunday. I thought Calypso Chance improved for the run at Down Royal. I thought it was very, very good here. Looked a lot tidier. Made a mistake 2 out, but again, still kind of showed that I think on heavy ground, I think he's definitely the one that looks to be heading straight to the Lawlers of Nace, and I would give him a chance in that.
Yeah, you could have left that disappointing result going the Mac Day. I think they found something that maybe clinically abnormal, something like that, which was an excuse for him. And going up and trip was a sensible move. He could be the laws on his horse. He was kind of he was a very highly touted bumper horse, wasn't he?
He was favourite for the champion bumper, if I remember.
Yeah, he was kind of the solid kind of type and ran okay. Didn't really quite happen, Gordon Elliott, for the last Cheltenham Festival, but he jumped well, put it away quite nicely. It was a decent enough price in the back of that when an excuse emerged. So, and quite a lot of Gordons are improving from their first to second run. So, yeah, did it quite nicely.
Yep. Who's second for you?
Found the 50. I thought was pretty good here. I mean, I thought he was quite a good bet coming into the race as well before Albury National came out. Dino Blue made a couple of mistakes that handed him it. But I just like the bit of placing that Gordon Elliott has needed to do here. He spied the opportunity after the champion chase at Down Royal where he never really get into it. I think he was kind of ridden to stay the trip. And, you had good kind of horses like Envoy Allen was just pulling away from him. And he could never really land a blow. But in turn, he probably found out that he wasn't a 3 miler and he didn't really have a hard racing. He'd come out with a bit of race fitness on his side and put them to the sword here. And that's what he did, bucked out handy. And for a horse that consistently kind of runs pretty well all the time, a lot of kind of near misses here and there. They spied a really good opportunity here, and with Marine National not running out the ground and Dino Blue probably needing it the first time of the season and maybe being a bit vulnerable and having a crack at her, it was a good performance to come in, and he's put up good performances pretty much every time in his second start of the season. So while it's difficult for him to kind of kick on from there, and he's probably quite hard to place, he does have that kind of 160-ish performance in him, and there's definitely no harm in flinging him in. He's quite consistent being 2.5. You can kind of go to Cheltenham with the ground and you think, well, we'll just take a chance in a champion chase, or do we take a chance on Ryanair?
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of flick him in there, and don't be surprised if he was capable of running into a place. He's kind of that standard. I think the Morans probably have Firefox and go one way with him, one way with the other. They're both kind of that similar kind of standard of horse. But I think Finn the 50's done quite a deal, and he's ran quite a lot in his young career already. So it was kind of good to see him kind of go in there at Navan when it's an important meeting for the yard.
Right, my third performance was a similar Gigginstown colours. I really liked the performance of Classical Creek. I thought in debut over hurdles he was very good. He was another horse, obviously, who was bought to be a kind of long-term project. Wasn't great in bumpers. Like the kind of long-term project looks to be certainly reminds you of the kind of Albert Bartlett horses they've had, like Stellar Story. I don't think you'll see this horse back in trip. I think he's definitely one for maybe Christmas. He's one for is there a 3 mile grade one at Christmas? Have I made that up?
Yes, yeah, there is.
I think
The Joseph O'Brien horse won that all the time, home by the Lee.
yes. No, the novice hurdle.
Or the novice.
I
There's one at
think
Limerick, isn't there? There's a good one at Limerick.
yeah. Well, I think he'll be aimed at kind of 3 miles. I think I think he's probably a
Yeah,
long term
the,
battle
the, the
project.
Land Rover races.
Yes, yeah, that's right. So I think he's a project for that. done it very well. Beat a decent, it looks a decent Mullins horse in Fill Your Eye, who I don't think ran terrible, but I think kind of Classical Creek looks to be the one I would take from this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to like about this. I mean, I thought there was maybe a bit more to his performance than Calypso Chance, particularly with Cheltenham down the line, because he is a kind of
Mm-hmm.
an out and out stayer. Um, you know, knows he's going to stay, bump out, make all. Um, the third last was missed out because of the low sun and things like that, so maybe that kind of helped him a little bit. And remember, he was kind of very, very highly touted as a bumper horse, didn't quite fulfil that potential, and quite a lot of these can come back and be good stayers. He's the kind of archetypal Gordon Elliott horse that you have in mind for that. Interested to see what he beat.
The Doran's
Maybe,
Pride's the one I'm thinking of.
yeah,
The one at Limerick.
maybe not a great kind of field that he beat, but
Mm-hmm.
there's decent kind of connections in there. And yeah, he did it. He did it as the market kind of expected him to by winning by 8 lengths. So
Yeah.
it was a credible enough performance.
Yeah, Fury Road won that race. Eric Bloodats, remember him? Loughlin, Big Western won it last year. He's definitely in that kind of mould, isn't he? So I think he could be aimed at that for Christmas. Who's your third and final performance?
The Troy Town winner answer to Keith was pretty good. Yeah, maybe a kind of harder one to find because he did look slightly exposed in the form book, but it was a typically kind of strong race, attritional race, maybe an unusual one because all the leaders kind of just stayed there and they didn't really land a blow. Tenants O'Brien to win it. It was good form, and again, it's kind of he was in that Jack Richards race at Cheltenham and Cole Potter, which is usually pretty good form, really. Um, didn't get home at Punches and Festival when they ran him in that 4 miler. But back to three, he was pretty good, and there might be more improvement in him. Second, yeah, man, again looked pretty. Second and third, yeah, man, Dunboy might be pretty exposed. But it's still usually pretty good form. You know, they're kind of standard bearers really that usually run their races in the 3 miles attritional ground, things like that. Will the Wise just get caught out for inexperience at that age at a race that was so attritional. And Katie Bourbon, although it was disappointing, shaped as if she badly needed the run, really, and that it wouldn't be the first time in his career that he's maybe flung in what appeared to be a bad performance, but actually isn't. So he can leave it behind. So while there's a few non-runners and maybe a lot of quiet rides because it's the first time out this season and really bad ground over 3 miles, I think it's a race that'll work out reasonably well for all these kind of races down the line, like races like the kind of the Fiestas and things like that kind of set the toner in the 3 mile handicap division in Ireland.
Right, let's go into a very busy weekend lineup. We'll start to Ascot with the 1965 chase on Saturday. Very interesting field. Again, we will say we don't have declarations, and a lot of these horses are kind of double booked elsewhere. So, like, stay tuned to what we've got in kind of Saturday, Sunday for the declarations. We've got Ali Francais, remember him, 2-1 favourite now with Tom George. Pick Dory 5-2, Gidley Park 4s, Django Bay's in here at 5s, and you've got the Jukebox Man and Hartwood, Master Chewy's in here as well. I'm not sure about this. I again wait to the kind of day, but I think if Django Bay goes here, I think he's got a shot.
Very possibly, very possibly. I mean, it's just ascertain where they're going to go. You know, does he go to the graduation chase instead? The Jukebox Man's jocked up. I'd be quite interested in Hartwood if he turned up here. I think he had that really good run at Punchestown. I think this is more suitable than we know he can go well, quite right-handed. The John Durkin would probably been a temptation there, but I think he maybe found that too difficult. This would be a bit easier. This would be his grade. He wouldn't really be conceding any weight really to anybody. And with Ellie Francais and Pick Dory at the head of the market, both pretty free going sorts that could take each other on. It could set up a closer. I wouldn't be back in Ireland, top of the market. On that
But I'd pick
account,
Dory before Ely Francais. I just think Ely Francais is just too dangerous. Like, He could turn up, you would be surprised, but there's also if
Well, if he
he,
turns up in his Kempton mood, it's could ask it because it's right-handed and flat, then he'd take a world of beating. He's getting
Mhm.
weight, but again, you're just not quite sure how it's going to go. And he was kind of he was. I mean, Cheltenham was never ever going to suit him really. He's had two okay runs subsequently in France. It's because he's French, but he's moved trainer now, maybe a bit more settled. And I think if they all ran to their best, his King George effort is the best there, and he would win it. So it's hard to have a guarantee. Gidley Park entitled to need the run. Django may be very good fresh, but is he going to come here? He could go elsewhere. Same issue with the jukebox man. He could go for that graduation. I think that's why you saw a bad Paddy Power because you've got a graduation, I bet, if you're chasing this Ascot chase, and then you've got the Huntingdon race quite soon after. So you've got all these options at 2.5 miles.
Mhm.
Um, if Hartwood came, I would probably back him prices, but hard to assess if you don't know what's coming at the top of the market, really.
Yeah, let's go to the 240 Ascot with the Ascot hurdle. Would do for Gordon Elliott seems to be coming here at 64. Potter's Charm 72. You've got Altabelli, Celtic Dino, and Katera. If Woodoo comes here and she's anywhere near 64, I'd be steaming in.
Yeah, odds against, I think he'd probably do quite well because he's head and shoulders got the best
Mhm.
form. Proved it at Aintree in second to Loshyworth, ran really well there. Martin Pite off 141 to a very good horse to win that. And they've done this before, coming over here early doors, did it this time. Almost this time last year at Newbury when they won a listed race quite easily. Um, Doncaster, they kind of plundered these kind of nice listed prizes over here, and she was still kind of well off handicapped. £9 Clear of Porter's Charm, and she's going to get the 7 as well. You know, she's going to be very hard to stop. Altabelli's good around Ascot. Celtic Dino's probably the threat on that Welsh champion hurdle form. The winner, you had the second there come out, take the Great Wood by 6 lengths. And if you thought Celtic Dino, you know, if the ground was suitable at Cheltenham, I think he probably won the Great Wood there. So I think he's the danger for sure.
Yeah. We'll go to Haydock. We'll start with the 225, the Betfair Stairs handicap hurdle. Horse you like in here, Machantu at 9 to 2 for Emma Lavelle. Horace's Peril, Ace of Spades, Hartington, Joey Marchand, and Shoot First around 8 to 1 mark. Are you with Machantu here? I know you gave him a shout previously. Has that changed at all?
It's maybe a lot of rain coming, which might be a little bit of a negative going in when he's form. Although they did win a bumper and soft, 2 bumpers and soft, not just a one. Um, but he's kind of good to soft exclusively since, so maybe a little bit of a doubt there, but I can see why it has to be put in favour. It's unexposed, be anything. Um, Arash's Pearl was tried tested in high class company last year and did pretty well. I saw him when he was third in that one race in Perth behind
Mm.
Kiss Will. It was a good enough performance. He went off favourite that day, so he's held in high regard. Shoot First won this last year off top weight and could do something similar. Skeletons have got a couple that they can throw in at this.
I've got one for the Skeletons. I think Joey Marchand might have. I actually think both the Skeleton horses have got a chance, but Joey Marchand, I think, is run okay. I don't think the rain's a bad thing coming in. 137 still a good mark. Has form in soft ground was obviously. I thought a real eye catcher that day at Weatherby when he was third in soft over 2.5. I don't think Tripp's a worry because he ran okay before. I think that was that after Cheltenham. I think the Saturday. I think he was second to Red Risk.
Oh, I
And
talked to her. Yeah,
you talked to
yeah,
her here. I think he had a good chance. I think he'd done well that day. I don't necessarily think he's a bad shout in here, and I think at 137, if he takes up, he's got a chance.
yeah. And he's had that kind of running the silver trophy at Chepstow before,
Yes.
so he's going to be race fit, and this is the second Pagan's won since. So
Mm.
you can see him. You can definitely see him being in the mix if he takes up his chance. One one at a price. Nab Wood there at the bottom of the weights won really well at Ayr, and he's been a horse of had a lot of potential. He just never got a clear run at him last season, but he's shaped up as if he wants 3 miles and improved for it. He accounted for a really good field. He was
I
well
was deep
back.
ground. I was deep ground here that day, wasn't
That was bottomless, yeah,
it?
bottomless stuff. It's only like 18 days ago when he won
Yeah,
that, beat the likes of Whistle Stop Tour, stuff like that. Which he probably wasn't entitled to do, but this is obvious kind of race for him, and particularly in the north, and he should step forward from it as well, fitness wise. So I imagine that this has been the plan, and they've liked him for some time. Just never got a clear run from him at all. He's going to get these niggly hold up things because I think soft ground's important from him, and the rain is coming from him, so he might get it, which would make a big difference to him. So he's not without a chance. He's about 14-1 right now.
yeah, I think he's got a chance as well. Right, let's get into the first Grade One of the British Jump season. We've got the Betfair Chase. Callum, grade awning is the highest in ratings. This has been the long term plan. He's been kept for this since Aintree hasn't had a run. This has been the long term project. I don't think that's a good race. He's 11-8, but there's something in the back of my mind that tells me he's not going to win this race, and I don't know what it is. I can't knock it. I can't get it out of my mind. Are you going to convince me Hilly Grade On is going to win this race?
Not going to convince anyone of anything here. Yeah, I can see why. I mean, favourite for all those reasons, and it's almost folly taking on Skeltons in races of this nature at the moment. He was outstayed last year by Royal Pagaille, who's a year older now, really, and you'd have to think that it's difficult again. But he jumped really, really well on ground that was quicker than usual at Haydock for that time of year. And if you watch that race back, he only made one real mistake, and it was the last, and it stopped his momentum, and it just got mugged. Um, and then he kind of left. Then the King Jaws was kind of that was inappropriate, and his season kind of went apart there. He did okay in winning at Kelso back then when he beat Iroko. He showed his class that day a little bit, 2.5 lengths. Then at Aintree, he bumped into Gaelic Warrior, who was beaten by 3 lengths, and I don't think there's much shame in that, although his jumping wasn't that good. But I think he's a better horse on softer ground. The
Okay.
range coming for him, which you might get, and I think he's going to be absolutely primed for this, like Protectorate was when they learnt their lesson. And I don't see them missing here. And I think he's by far the most likely winner because Horticolor, for all he's probably more of a Gold Cup contender than he is, he's got £12 to find in official ratings. And while he does keep improving in the right kind of races, and he will like this test, and he will jump well, it's still a lot to kind of find. And he's got fitness on his side as well after that winning spin in hurdles. He still has that bit to find, and he should be kind of further adrift of a favourite in the market for that. Handstands is a big player. I think he's a massive talent and improved for 3 miles. And I think it's easy to forget how well he was taking to kind of the game. Really, at some point, he's the way he beat Django Bay in the Scilly Isles over a trip that was probably too short from
Yeah.
was very very good. Um, it went wrong for him at Aintree and behind Caldwell Potter, which wasn't really his fault because Dancing City fell in front of him really, and that kind of knocked him a little bit, put him in the back burner, and then he was just outpointed by Resplendent Grey in his comeback run at Haydock, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But he's only 6, and is this a little bit of a stepping stone to a King George
Yeah.
for him?
No, I think he's definitely a
I think
contender.
this is a really attritional race where, again, he's another one that's got to find £10 plus the favourite here, and I just don't see the Skeltons having him left a stone unturned here. I think he's going to make all, and I just don't think. I mean, is Royal Pagaille going to come back to it? I think that's a huge ask because his season fell off a cliff. I know you get Haydock horses like Bristol Dubai come back all the time, but it's a big ask when he come back at 11 and do the same thing again. Stella Story might like the rain. It'd be interesting if he came down to kind of give an Irish kind of novice angle into it, but I think handstands is a danger. But I think Grey Dawning will be too battle hardened here, and I think he'll take this out because I trust connections to prepare him properly to take it out, and he has enough superior kind of rating form in the book as well. If he does put his best foot forward, then he'll take it. Softly better form, I would say. Let's say that'd be a plus.
Only one horse has won this race as an 11-year-old, and it's Cottle Star.
Yeah.
It's a very, very tough ask. That being said, though, that like I really hope Grey Dawning wins this, but there's just a wee doubt in my mind last year. Is this definitely what he wants? As you say, though, I trust the yard to have him ready. I'm no 100% yet. But if I want a horse to win this weekend, it's Grey Dawning. I want him to win this race. I'm just
I
not
just think it's
necessarily
such
sure
an
he's
easy
backing.
adjustment from last year. You know, I
Yeah,
mean, he travelled into it by far the best horse in the race, and the just kind of petrol gauge just kept spinning a little bit, and I think they kind of did that to try and bring him on to King George. And the thing is, the race is simply too attritional there to be 85, 90% fit.
yeah,
And then you leave the next subsequent race behind. And the way he's campaigned horses, like drilled them quite quickly. You know he's staying in the Kelso performance. You know he's got that kind of stam in the background. You know, you see them in the turners. I think he's definitely got the capability of getting that trip. You know, the Warwick novice race as well was further proof. I mean, he thrashed Appleway by 14 lengths. You know, I mean, he will definitely, he does have that class, and his best jumping performance of the season, without doubt, was at Haydock.
yeah,
You know, and also if you remember that year, they were trying to get a prep run into him because he was declared as a non-runner at Wetherby in the Charlie Hall
hmm,
and in the Colin Parker at Carlisle.
yeah.
So knew he was kind of coming in undercooked a little bit that day. Uh, so with a different prep here, and the yard just unable to really do no wrong, and the higher profile the race, the better. I think it's just very, very hard to oppose in the
Let me
60.
ask you another question before we move into Ireland. You've talked a lot about a certain horse in Ireland called Imperi Pass. Would he have a chance in this
And
if you
what in
went?
this race?
Yeah.
No, it'll be too attritional this early season for him.
Are you surprised that they haven't sent over like a Lecky Watson, like a?
No,
I don't
because
think Kelly Warwick.
it's just not what he does. He's not interested. It's too early. He's not interested in it. Um, and you know he's anything pre New Year is fact finding mission. We
Yeah.
saw his best horses, Ballyburn and Lossiemouth. They were nowhere near fully primed for that. You know, I mean, the fighting fifth when he has a horse there, you know, it's a pretty poor record on that.
Hmm.
And so even if they're coming over, they're not going to be. He's going to send probably a couple over for the Newbury Gold Cup that might have chances, it might not. It's a different kind of handicapping kettle of fish a little bit, but there's just no appetite at the moment for him because I think he's got enough to kind of on his plate, getting the first run of the season under their belt in Ireland, really. Um, that you don't really need to kind of spread them about. And I think when it lands, particularly when there's a lot of good important racing over the weekend at Punchestown, I think there's even less of an appetite to run this weekend as well. So no, it doesn't surprise me. Patrick Mullins has gone on record saying constantly that he's got absolutely no chance of him running a horse in that race at all.
Okay, let's move into Punchestown. We'll go to the two grade ones. We'll start with the Morgiana Hurdle. We have Anzadam at even money. William Money's still in here though, but isn't running by the sounds of it. Arancy's 4-1. Lossiemouth is still in here. Doubt she will go. Kyrgyz, you've got Ndawi. What do you? Is this a case of wait and see how Anzadam runs? Because I think you would. I think it would be very, very difficult to back Anzadam for a champion hurdle, even if he wins this impressively, because of the track record of how hard he has to keep fit.
Yeah, the same as Arancy, but I mean that's the kind of challenge that we've got to do. He's looked good in the two British starts that we've seen him. Thrashing Calaconte by six and a bit, and they seem to Beacon Edge. Two that are, let's be honest, stayers, not 2 milers or 2 miles. Things that he's entitled to do, getting a mark of 157 for it, because there's so much more to potentially come. But you know, he missed a kind of half season with him, didn't he? He's only five. I mean, five going six. I wouldn't really knock him for being too overly fragile or something like that. I think Aranci's just achieved more in that kind of Punchestown effort alone, and beating Salvador Monday, he might have been over to Hill and Kopek de Boer misfiring a little bit might make it not look that good, but he was the winner a long way out that day, and he does have a decent reputation. It fell apart, but they went a fierce gallop, and both him and Amsterdam like being held up as well. So who would kind of go and kind of force the pace a little bit in this? It would be kind of interesting. I think it's quite a trappy race, and the fact that Aranci's done that at Punchestown as well. I don't really see why he's 4-1 to Amsterdam's evens. I really don't see the discrepancy there. Is it enough for me to compel to have a bet? Probably not. It's a sitting kind of
Mm-hmm.
watch race.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like Kyrgyz is going to come here. And Dawi might take his chance, and if he ran to that kind of effort in the county hurdle and then improving and taking the Galway hurdle, he's there kind of on raw figures a little bit, but he just doesn't have the potential these other two. And Mark Walsh is going to be in one, Paul Townsend in the other. It's pick your poison. I'm a bit surprised. I'm just only surprised about the price gap, really. They're both horses with enormous potential. I don't really see what Amsterdam has achieved over Aranci that much in comparison to the two. So it'll be interesting. And Aranci just get more punches in form, done a little bit more as well. But he's kind of had his kind of issues, but he might now be over them. So there's a lot of guesswork involved with the pair. It's kind of who you prefer. Amsterdam probably visually has a sexier profile. Probably that's why he's shorter. Aranci was kind of maybe a bit of an afterthought, Punchestown and lucky winner, and he's maybe being underestimated. So yeah, I think the market might be quite revealing, but at this stage of the season, I'm happy to kind of sit back and watch and who could advance their champion hurdle claims the best. I mean, they both might run really well and be very prominent. Who knows?
Well, I certainly think that's what that race I watch and brief. Not necessarily sure about this one. We've got the John Durkin Punchestown Chase. Galloping Deschamps is not going here. Obviously, I think he's had a bit of a setback, so I'd imagine they'll be keeping him to Christmas. But Fact to File leads the mark here at 5-4. Gaelic Warrior 11-4. Faster Slows 5-1. The Gold Cup winner, I know the way you're thinking, is sevens. The likes of Lecky Watson, Nick Rocket's in here as well. You've got a Ryanair winner, a Betway Bowl winner, a Gold Cup winner, a Brown Advisory winner, and a Grand National winner. So two Grand National winners are likely to turn up here. Is this the race of the season so far?
Well, it is, isn't it? And no surprise that it's this one as well. I mean, Willie Mullen says he's going to run four, isn't he? There's four, I think he said. So a few of these probably
Do you
won't
think he'll
kind
run
of
both Fact to File and Gaelic Warrior?
seems to be the market seems so. Don't see why you wouldn't. It's the right way around for Gaelic Warrior. It's an ideal starting point for Fact to File. It's always a good pipe opener for the Gold Cup winner because the expectation won't be too high here.
No.
And I think you'll probably run Lecky Watson as well as the kind of leading novice contender, and maybe one of the other kind of four outsiders will go and maybe set a decent pace. I think Lecky Watson could run well. I think he can maybe kind of be the Fact to File of. I think he's novice graduate coming in here should be a little bit further forward than most fitness wise, and I think you want to kind of find out where he slots in. But the fact he kind of keeps talking about and these all these stable tours pretty consistently that he's probably more of a Grand National type, a Grade One horse, suggests that he's not up to this, and odds of kind of 16-1 kind of reflect that really. I think Factor File been incredibly hard to beat personally. On the back of his effort last year, his Ryanair run, which I think is maybe overplayed a little bit because it was a strange Cheltenham and he was one of the first favourites to come in, and the Punchestown was just unsuitable where he just didn't turn up completely. So I think Gaelic Warrior is definitely of interest. He's obviously the chief danger, but he'd be more inclined to need a run. I think I just have that kind of feeling about him. I think he might just need it a little bit. But
Yeah,
I mean, two high class horses here really dominating the market, and it looks like a race that's priced up fairly accurately
I
to
think
me.
it is. Yeah, I think Fight to File is the one here. I'm very interested to see what Fast or Slow, how he is after his injury. I wouldn't necessarily say he's. I mean, I really fancied him last year for the King George before he got hurt. I think he's potentially a chance in that. Gaelic Warrior, we know what the plan is. We know. I would imagine the plan is here: get a run into him and get him ready for Kempton. Whereas Fight to File, I think they were surprised they won this last year.
I backed him in it last year because
Yeah,
I followed that kind of. He was the novice coming
mm-hmm.
in, so he was the one that was probably going to be fit. Uh, I don't. I just think there's too much of a gap between him and the likes of Lecky Watson for that to materialise. So, and I just think he'd probably have the better prep for this anyway with Gallop and Deschamps in the conversation. So he's probably the one that's ready made to take this out.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, what he did in this last year was quite impressive. I mean,
Mhm.
Master Slow hasn't run since, but he was fourth and he was beaten favourite in it
Yeah, it
by
went into it was Gold Cup favourite after winning this last year. So
a good six and a bit, and exactly because he kept on really well after the last. Travelled quite well, halfway, and he gets squeezed out kind of between 3-2 out, and you're kind of thinking, and then obviously Spalancetower's trying to come late at them.
wild that he's younger than Gaelic Warrior, isn't it? Like it's mental when you think about that. That he's a year older than Gaelic Warrior.
Yeah, I mean, Gaelic
Like,
Warrior's just been kind of, he's just been there for ages where he's kind of, as a 4-year-old, isn't he? So yeah, it's a different kind of pass, really. It's Gaelic Warriors had all this kind of racing, particularly over hurdles as well, and in fact, it felt just kind of been just parachuted straight in
yeah,
against us as a Gold Cup prospect. And that's the other interesting thing is you're a Gold Cup winner here. How much of a soft? I mean, Gavin Cromwell says he'll be sharper, and he's beaten 36 and a bit lengths.
and
And I mean,
potentially
how much
not. Well, I would be
is he going to get
astounded,
within 30 this time?
and he won't have his rider on board. I would imagine because I'd imagine Mark Walsh will want
Uh,
right back to file. So it's an interesting dynamic.
an interesting dynamic there, yeah, because I mean, you pick that and then Paul Town and probably Gaelic Warrior. But it's hard. It's a hard thing to get off a Gold Cup winner in
Mm-hmm.
any race. So yeah, that would be quite interesting. But Keith Doherty would just pick that up. I
Yeah,
mean, it's that jockey kind of thing. I think that's kind of more of a British thing that would hit up with. I don't think the Irish care a job
no,
about
I
that.
don't care. No, I
And
don't
I
think
don't
they
think
do.
he can when Willie Mullins can saddle 8 top class Grade One horses in any race if he wanted to with a pecking order. So yeah, I think I think again it looks like a race that's priced out pretty accurately, and I think Factor Five is going to be fairly hard to beat.
Yeah, but we are ready for it. You got a strong play that lot. Obviously, there's a lot of racing. This is the kind of this is the first kind of big weekend. I would say this is one of my. We've got Fairy House next weekend. This is the kind of big start of the kind of Christmas period for me. Christmas tree's
Yeah,
already up for me, by the way.
I think last weekend was quite good. I just think that the Cheltenham meetings kind of it doesn't need to be 3 days anymore.
No,
It should be two, and there's a lot like that. You're kind of by the end of it, your enthusiasm's on the wane a little bit, but and Navim's got awkwardly rescheduled, so we didn't really kind of know there. But yeah, there's a lot of kind of good races that sprinkled around Haydock, Ascot, Punchestown. And yeah, and probably the best bet out of the lot. I just can't see Great Dillon getting beaten. I can't see Factory Phil getting beat. So 41 double or something like that. It's not too bad.
Go. Yep, I wouldn't. I really hope that comes in, mate. Thank you very much as always. We'll be back next week to cover that and we'll obviously preview a very exciting weekend after that. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Tuned in. Please gamble responsibly, and we will see you all next week.